got a North Carolina judicial update for you. Following unrelenting exposure by the Carolina Journal, the state Supreme Court has reversed course. The court has announced it will uphold the integrity of the judiciary. It will allow duly elected Republican justices Phil Berger Jr. and Tamara Barringer to remain on NAACP versus Moore. That's a case that seeks to overturn the will of North Carolina voters and will determine the fate of two important state constitutional amendments, voter ID and a cap on the state income tax. In a recently released order, the state's highest court has walked back an unprecedented plan. After toying with the idea of forcing two justices off the amendments case, the order backs away from that terrible idea. Instead, the court will continue to observe over 200 years of procedure. It will allow each justice to decide for him or herself whether to take part in a particular case. In no case will an outside group be able to have a justice removed from a case involuntarily. And that's great news. The Carolina Journal first broke the news in September that Democrat justices were considering this unprecedented scheme. It would have allowed them to vote Republican colleagues off a particular case. Now, such a scheme would have usurped the independence of the state's highest court and the will of voters. Carolina Journal's exclusive reporting led to national coverage. The Wall Street Journal called it scorched earth judging, explaining that liberal groups in North Carolina were trying to overturn or sidestep 4 separate state elections from 2018 and 2020. And there was bipartisan pushback from the legal community as well. 3 former Chief Justices, including 2 Democrats, spoke out against the scheme. On November 4, 2021, Locke joined the North Carolina Institute for Constitutional Law in filing an amicus brief. It urged the Supreme Court to reject the effort to forcibly recuse Republican justices. Moving forward with this scheme would have amounted to a judicial coup. And had the coup been successful, leftist special interest groups whose ideas and radical platforms have been rejected at the ballot box would have disenfranchised millions of North Carolina voters. Now that's actual voter suppression. But Supreme Court Democrats backed down, and the coup has been averted for now. The story isn't over. Our wildly popular voter ID constitutional amendment still isn't enforced over 3 years after voters approved it. Meanwhile, National Democrat legal schemer Mark Elias, cheered on by the left, is still tormenting North Carolina voters. Elias and other Democrat lawyers are suing to have their hand-drawn Democrat-leaning maps forced upon North Carolina voters. And if they win, voters will face these skewed maps in the 2022 elections. The left continues to practice extreme injustice, and we'll keep exposing it.